allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now you can hear me. This is a meeting, a public hearing, and it is about the tax here. It is a tax hearing and we need some information. And Dr. Gibbs is going to give us all the information we need to know.
All right, so in the document that Crystal prepared, you hopefully got a chance to look at that, but if you look under the St. Francis County, Corey, if you want to pull that up, it's just on the first page there is where I'm going to be. Oh, okay, you're switching up. It's all good, just I'll point out there was a minor change. And then on the St. Francis County assessed valuation, you can see where our total is at $465 million. We only went up 22, almost 23 million, which is a 5.14% increase. We did have some solid new construction growth, so we'll see that in future years. But that is not the growth we would have liked to have seen. You can see St. Genevieve in the next line down, almost a 16% growth. That's where a more minor portion of our assessed valuation comes from, and it went up almost 10 million. So not to keep rehashing the election, but we were told we would see substantial growth and pretty much wipe out the 40 cents we were asking for, and that did not materialize. So overall, combining those two counties, we saw 6.44% growth. So that still helped us out quite a bit. And then the document is switched out. So if you go down to where the calculation was, Neil's here, so that's good. I'm covering my part. He'll be up here to cover his part. But the calculated rate came out to 257.7, and which was just 3 cents down from last year. So it calculated 3 cents lower than the previous year. I know from being at the superintendent's meeting today that several of the superintendents around saw, as much as 7 or 8 cents I heard in the room, that they had to lower their levy, but because we're at the floor already at 275, we can't go any lower than that. So even though our assessed valuation did go up, we gained a little bit of extra funding for it. We didn't have to roll back that extra 3 cents that it increased. So anything that would have been with our tax levy increase, we would have recouped almost all of that because we didn't see quite the growth we would have hoped to see. And so then you go down to Form C paragraph that you see there, and because of some bond refunding, and we previously reported that we were going to be doing some bond prepayments, but Neil has worked through some of our investments and looked at those and wanted to talk to us about refunding and refinancing on our Series 2020 bonds, our most recent bonds, and how it will save the district even more money, so being good stewards of the taxpayers' money. So once that is completed later in the year, in the next couple of months, we go ahead and get that refunding done. Our debt service will go ahead and calculate above the 90 cents, which is where it said it at, and we're asking you to approve tonight to roll that back almost 4 cents, 0.0364 to 90 cents, and keep it at the 90 cents in order to make our payments, go ahead and refund those bonds, and it will actually shave years off of the prepayment of the payment schedule, and will save money. So if you go to the second page, so under D, Corey has it up there for us. If local taxes are collected at 100%, we would see about another $590,000. Now we had already budgeted with a conservative 2.5%, so about $400,000. So between the two, just shy of $1 million, but we don't collect generally about 95%, so about $950,000 extra in revenue. We had already projected about 420 of that, so another $500,000 will offset that deficit that I had shown in our budget when we adopted that back in June going into July. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts. Questions for me? questions from taxpayers out in the audience? All right, Neil is going to report on the refunding process and why we would do that and how that helps us out.
So yeah, as Dr. Gibbs mentioned, reason I'm here is for a refunding possibility, and so I know we had talked about the prepayment of bonds previously, so that kind of goes in line with that. You're justifying your 90-cent levy. In the process, we're going to hopefully shorten the repayment schedule by 5 full years, so from 2036 down to 2031, which saves you about $1.75 million in interest expense. So with the prepayment, we were looking at about $250,000 of interest expense that we would be saving. By doing this, we're basically refinancing and restructuring the debt from 2020 that was originally issued at $6 million. And then we restructure that to save some money, and I'll go through that here real quick. So on pages 1 and 2, I won't go over that because Dr. Gibbs just went over that. It's the assessed valuation growth, which has grown about 4.5% each year on average over the last 5 years. So when we look at every bond issue scenario that we look at for the district, we always assume 2% growth. So it being 4.5% growth, obviously, usually comes out looking better than what we anticipate. And then obviously the second page of that is the levies by fund. As Dr. Gibbs mentioned, you're at 275 in that Fund 1, which is the floor, and then 90 cents has been the debt service levy for the past few years, all the way, I think, since 11-12. After that, on page 3 of the booklet, it's labeled Exhibit C, you have your the Form C calculation. And so basically this is how the state auditor recommends the levy that you should have in your debt service fund. How that's calculated is on line 1. Your assessed valuation is just under $538 million. Then it takes into account your next 2 calendar year payments. So those on line 2 and on line 4, where you get $2.8 million and $2.12 million worth of payments the next 2 years. You then have to take out on line 6 the balance that you have in debt service of $3.73 million. And then add back in the line 8, $450,547, which is revenue that you get from state assessed for a utility. And then basically what that amounts to is line 10. The calculation would be 16.9 cents. Okay. So in order to have that 90-cent levy in place, we're looking to refinance some bonds. And so I'll skip to page 7. And it's what you're currently paying on your Series 2020 bonds. And this is the second piece of the $16 million bond issue that was approved by voters in 2019. We issued $10 million in 2019 and then $6 million in 2020 at a 4% interest rate. And so, again, that structure there, you have principal maturing from 2031 out to 2036. That coupon rate is 4%. And these are currently callable, meaning you can refinance them without any penalty. I mean, they became callable March 1 of 2025. So we had an initial 5-year call feature on these bonds. If you go to the next page, page 8, Schedule 6, this is the refinancing, the proposed refinancing that I put together. And so essentially where you had principal from 2031 to 2036, we're pushing principal forward in order to restructure these bonds, with the bulk of that being in 26 and 27 to justify keeping that 90-cent levy in place for 1 more year at least. And then the rest of the bonds mature from 28 to 2031, shortening it from a 36 final maturity to a 2031 final maturity. Those are at 4%. That's basically just what we've got in the market right now. It's sold at a premium, so you're going to produce some more money. And normally, like on a new money bond issue, that would go towards your project cost. But for this, because it's a refinancing, it goes to pay the cost of issuance, and then it reduces the par amount of the refunding bonds. So that's why you're refunding $6 million of bonds with $5.97 million. So it's reducing it by an additional $30,000. And that's on the next page. So on the pricing summary, you have your 4% interest rate, and then the yield is what the investor is actually going to realize on those bonds. So we have that from 2.75% out to 3.13%, meaning the investor is willing to give you more upfront money in order to receive a little higher interest rate. Okay. Again, that totals $117,542.15, pays the cost of issuance, and then it reduces that par amount by $30,000. We would hope to do a little bit better than that as far as selling the bonds. This was, I guess, priced last week. We had a little bit of movement in the market that pushed interest rates down slightly, so we hope to hopefully do a little bit better than what we're showing here. So the savings would hopefully be high. On the next page, it is the savings report that is with this refinancing. So about middle of the way through the page, you have your net new debt service. That is the refinancing or the restructure that we have proposed. The old net debt service is what you're currently locked into paying on your Series 2020 bonds. And then there is the difference there in the savings column, totaling $1,745,260. And on the far right-hand side is your fiscal year total savings. So you are losing money technically in the front end because you're paying off those bonds quicker and pushing up that principal expense. That's why there's a negative savings. But then after 2031 and thereafter, you're saving what you would be paying. So that's where the bulk of the savings is going to come in at, is on that long end. But when it's all said and done, net interest savings from what we're seeing, hopefully we would do better again, is 1.749932. Okay. And then I'm going to actually jump back to page 6. And so basically by doing this, or by approving the resolution and pushing that principle forward, you can see how on Exhibit C1 it changes that calculation for your debt service fund. So on line 2, you have $4.7 million of payments now, where we had $2.8 million. On line 4 for 2027 payments, we had almost $4.2 million in payments, where we were at about $2.1 million. Okay. Gets you to where the calculation on line 10 is 93.42 cents. You would roll back that 3.42 cents to your desired 90-cent levy. Are there questions with the refunding structure? I do have a resolution to go through, but I just wanted to ask if you guys had anything on the calculation number side.
We have a timeline that you have September. I mean, is that because you anticipate what the market's doing?
Well, so when we submit basically a call notice, which we haven't done that yet, we have 30 days from that point in time to let investors know that the bonds will be called. So you're required to give them a 30-day notice. So really, whenever we start that timeline, that's when that time frame kind of comes into effect. But for right now, if we approve the resolution, we're basically stating we're planning on refinancing these bonds, pushing the principal up to justify the 90-cent levy. Whenever that happens, it doesn't have to happen right away, but right now, actually, municipal bonds in Missouri are moving very well. They're selling pretty well. So there's not a lot of product out there. The April election happened, and basically all schools, municipalities that have passed those April elections have issued all their money. So kind of in a lull right now where there's not a lot of product out there. So usually when that happens, those interest rates start to drive downwards. So kind of capitalizing. I did put just for information purposes on the very last page of buying capacity for a 2026 election. I just wanted to update you on that because I know last year we looked at it, it was around that 51 million just as a capacity side. But with that big bump in AV that you got to right almost 538 million, take out all your bonds that you have outstanding, add back in your balances, get you about 63,380,000. Again, that's legal capacity. That's just 15% of what your assessed valuation is, what you could borrow theoretically. Okay, I just wanted to update you on that because we usually do that every year. Okay, in the front of the booklet, I do have a resolution. If the board wants to move forward with the refinancing and the restructuring, this would be the legal document that would basically set that in motion. And because we do not have investors lined up, this would put a committee together. We've done this in the past, a final terms committee consisting of Dr. Gibbs, board president, and then Tom Zarkowitz in our office to then lock in those interest rates when we do line up investors. So again, we'd send it to all the local banks first, give them the priority to participate, and then after that, go out to other buyers. Usually in Missouri, it doesn't go a lot further than that, especially on financing that's this short and just under $6 million. It probably wouldn't go out to very many national investors. So in this, I'm just going to go through a couple things, if you don't mind. I'll try to make it fairly quick. On the back side of the first page, there's an all caps paragraph. And that is the summary of this document. So it's authorizing and directing the issuance and delivery of an amount not to exceed $6 million. And that's because your original bonds are over $6 million. It can't be more than what you're paying off. So that's why that says that. Principal amount, general obligation refunding bond series 2015 for the Farmington R7 School District. And then it basically says to refund or refinance the $6 million of outstanding bonds series 2020. On the bottom of page 4, and then it runs on to page 5 as well, the section 2.2 description of bonds. And really, I'm going to point out on page 4 just the very last line of that. And so basically what that's saying is the final terms committee shall not exceed a bond yield for arbitrage purposes of 3.25%. So basically saying that final terms committee, our bond yield for arbitrage has to be under 3.25%. What we have in the booklet is 2.88%. So we are hoping to be even lower than the 2.88, but this gives us flexibility if something were to go crazy in the next couple of weeks to still be able to lock that in and give you savings. Again, we don't intend for that to be the case. And then right after that, on page 5, the top of page 5, we have those basically that repayment structure. The year, the amount, and then obviously the rates and the yields are blank just because we don't have investors lined up yet. I will say on page, I think it's on page 10, I do want to point out on this one, section 3.1 optional redemption. We normally have that 5-year call feature on this because it is such a short maturity now in 2031. That would basically be making it callable a half year before the whole thing is paid off, which doesn't necessarily change anything, good or bad. So we basically just said this is going to be a non-callable financing, which is pretty standard if it's less than 6 or 7 years for us, anyways. Last thing to point out is on one of the very back pages here. I believe it's page 28. Section 11.10, just want to show it to you in writing, that establishment of the final terms committee, and again, consisting of board president, superintendent, Tom Zarkowitz, going through all of our normal marketing process we always have gone through, and then basically bringing those rates to that committee, and that committee is able to lock in the financing on behalf of the entire board due to this resolution, so the board doesn't have to come back together to approve the whole financing again. Okay. Any questions on that?
you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
The trip down, we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any questions from the audience for Dr. Gibbs? Anyone? No. Then I am going to ask for a motion and a second and a vote to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. I missed that. Okay. Thank you for that. Do I hear a second? Okay. All right. All those in favor? Thank you so much. Okay. Now, are we ready to adjourn? All right. That was fast. All right. A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? Thank you. All right. It's 5 o'clock. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, also we need to approve some minutes, and I need a motion and a second and a vote to approve the minutes of the July 15, 2025 regular board meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor? I also need approval of the minutes of the August 1st, 2025 special board meeting. Motion, second, and a vote. All those in favor? Okay, thanks guys. All right, under communications, we have some special people here, and they include Miss Mary Porter and the drum majors. Come on up, guys.
Good morning. The Farmington Band Boosters will be hosting the 28th annual Farmington Marching Invitational. Oh, I said good morning, didn't I? I'm sorry. On September 20th. This event brings 3,000 to 4,000 spectators onto the high school campus for a day full of fun, music, and marching.
The morning starts with a clinic for each band where the judges give feedback in a non-competitive setting. The field competition starts at 2:30. Currently, there are bands entered from as far away as Pattonville and Cape Girardeau, as well as many other local schools. Bands will perform for a panel of judges in competition. We also feature a drumline showcase for participating schools, as well as the FHS Nightline and exhibition.
Farmington Band Boosters is essential in running this event. Our Invitational is known all around the area for having helpful parents and a great hospitality room for bus drivers and other band directors. The executive board in charge of this year's event includes Tammy Moriarty, Jennifer Mentier, Michelle Talley, and Miranda Diornelis.
In September 1998, the first annual Farmington Marching Invitational was held in memory of John Beery. Mr. Beery was the president of Farmington Band Boosters the preceding year. It was his dream to someday host a competitive marching festival for high school parade and field bands. Since that time, the Farmington Band Boosters have hosted this event annually.
We'd like to invite you all to come out and attend our performances on that day. Our band performs at 5, and the nightline follows, and then our drumline showcase. Awards are at 6, and we hope to see you all there.
Thanks, guys. Also, you did a great job at opening day. Great job. Great job. Great job. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great. Okay, now I want to point out to the board members some of the informational items that we looked at during in our board packet, monthly financial report, some of the handbook changes in several of our schools, also information-only procedure and form updates, and that brings us down to policy updates, and we're ending a 30-day review. So I'm going to need a motion, a second, and a vote on those policy updates.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Now we're going to move down to the consensual agenda, and you've had a chance to look at those items. Does anyone have any discussion, any questions, anything to bring up for this agenda?
Are we going to do a separate vote on the resolution?
We are. Are we going to do a separate? Okay, would you like to pull that? Okay, so that will be everything but 7.03. Okay, so, oh, sorry, 04, thank you. Okay, so we're voting on every item with the exception of 7.04. Motion and a second. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, and now voting on 7.04. Second? Did somebody second? Second. Okay, great. Thank you. All right. All those in favor? Okay. Any opposition? All right. Okay, now we're going to move down to the superintendent update. You ready?
Yes, here it is. Take it.
We are moving fast tonight, so that's great. So it's always a pleasure of mine to be able to highlight all the great work going on across our district, and there was a lot of preparation that went into making this a very smooth start and a positive start to the school year. So just kind of going down through the list. I know in the August meeting I shared briefly with what the admin had just completed as far as their professional development and growth to prepare for the school district. Then we moved that following week after we met to the new staff. Mrs. Turner really headed that up, and the team came together and presented on all of those topics you see down through there to make sure our new staff, all of the new staff, including the support staff, were there on the first day, and then we moved to just the teachers the last 2 days. So really great professional growth and development poured into them to get them off to a good start. And then the following week, we moved to having all staff back on that welcoming day, and so appreciate all the attendance, the band being there and being a part of that. So we had great recognition of staff for many years of experience. Dr. Reeves came back and spoke and made the joke that he never thought he would come back on the first PE day after he retired, but he was there. Great sport and a very inspiring speaker for us. And then we had vendors and breakfast provided by our partnership with BJC Health Solutions, and our speaker that attended and spoke to us about remembering our passion for the year. So just a great start back, a lot of enthusiasm, and we have had good feedback from that day and the days that followed from our staff and the survey that we sent out. So the 3.5 days that followed, where district staff were working in their buildings, talking about instructional practice, building updates. I came around and talked about Portrait of a Graduate, our CSIP, allowed them to reflect on how that's already placed in their classrooms and the activities we have going on. Dr. Krause and Mrs. Hill did policy training, went through scenarios with staff. There were grade level department meetings held by Mrs. Turner and Mrs. Sheets, safety training by Mr. Krause, and so just robust presentations for our staff, and once again, positive feedback on those. The first days of school went smoothly. Really important, appreciate the great effort of the transportation department, despite kind of working on a skeletal crew and having some people out with various health issues, and our mechanics and everybody that could drive. Gary Phillips was on the road helping the new bus drivers and just filling in routes, and definitely a learning curve. I rode a bus on the first day, and so sitting on that Jefferson parking lot for 30 minutes waiting for that shuttle, that's an experience with a busload of kids. So, and then the new cell phone policy is going well at middle school and high school. We've had, of course, some kids tested out, but their teachers and the principals are working through that, and it's going well. And then if you jump down to the second to last bullet point on my part, we did have an end-of-year presentation. Crystal, Terry, and I did about our partnership through BJC. We always have a representative from there in the room. SmithRx joins us remotely, and Associate comes. And so, although our claims were a little higher than we hoped for, we did end the year at a 91% loss ratio. We really worked hard with that prescription drug plan that we put in place where the staff had to engage with the savings plan. They ended the year and saw some savings. One thing to note is that utilization across the plan did increase this year, so we see that as a win, even though that's an added cost that people are getting the care they need because of the lower deductibles that we were able to put into place. I commented on this a little bit in emails to you, but enrollment across the district, we've seen a little bit of trend in certain grade levels. We're still waiting for the dust to settle with drops to see exactly what those numbers look like, but we feel it's fairly constant, maybe a little bit up from last year, but we'll have that. We did graduate out of a large class, and then we have that really small class in first grade coming through, so kind of counteracts each other. And so we're watching those numbers closely. You can see the numbers as I ran them when I prepared this on Friday. And once again, there's still a few drops coming in as we work through the transfers to different districts. So looking briefly across the district at the different departments, student services, HR, Dr. Krause pushed out all the policies, so staff have been engaged in getting up to date on those. And then special ed department, we have seen some higher needs students relocate into our district. We've really stretched our resources, and we've had to add some instructional aids. We're trying to, we need to find them. And then I wanted to report out, we're going into our second year with the Discovery School program. It remains a really good source of meeting the needs of our high needs students. And this year it expanded to include 3 sending schools. So we did somewhat of a bit of an incentive payment back on our bill for having those sending schools being a part of that. So we're able to serve students across the area. That was the goal of that program. And moving on into curriculum instruction in elementary, just a few updates there. Mrs. Sheets, Ms. Turner have been looking carefully at the map and EOC scores. We have remained primarily above the state average. You'll see reports in months to come on that. But growth is not where we quite want it to be, so we're really being intentional with moving that as a district focus for us. And then benchmark testing is going on right now. The instructional coach team has just really been working with our new staff. And then those kindergarten enrollment numbers that I filled you in on August continue to climb, continue to kind of fine tune those. And so they climbed as high as where we're right now, we're sitting around 285. So we were able to add 2 additional classroom positions to meet the need there. Moving on to communication and public relations, the Nightway magazine, hopefully you received that. We're trying to track down. We've noticed a few mailboxes, mine included, to get that dropped in those, but most of the people across the district received that. We're really proud of this edition, gotten a lot of good feedback. We have really increased the student voice throughout. We'll continue to make sure we work on that. We launched the new messaging system this year. During my school visits, you came with me in the second half of the presentation, was just really updating people on rooms, how to use that across the district. That replaced our Remind program. We'll continue to work out any of the bugs with that. And we'll, overall, it's going well. As my wife sits across the room at night and messages people that message her. I know it's operating probably across the district as parents are reaching out to our staff. And then technology update. Really, technology went smoothly. Have any glitches across the district with firing up all the devices on the first days of school. So hats off to Corey and his team for making that such a smooth start. And then really proud of the new desktop computers. The second phase was deployed this year. We just have a few left to get out into the district, and then we will have all of those refreshed. Excited about the athletic and activities update from Chad's department. Football scrimmage at Festus just took place, and we take on North County on Friday, so come out and support the Knights, and then the tailgate will be going on, which supports our backpack program. So please, even if you don't want to eat I think it's a barbecue or jambalaya, you can make a donation, and it will help the backpack program. And then you can see the other teams going down through there. Got an update on the softball team. We were a little nervous about having a team, a large enough team, but we're up to, I think Coach Weinig said 11 members today. We've got one girl out for a while, but the other ones are all ready to go, so we're going to be able to field the team there. Volleyball, I was talking to Coach Capias this morning, and they are ready to go with their jamboree tomorrow night, so we'll get out and check that out. And then operations update. It's really been a busy summer. You can see some of that still going on right around us here at the Truman Auditorium. We've got the playground at the end here that we hope to see the middle of September finish, so meet the needs of our pre-K and early childhood special ed students. And then fencing went up all around the playground here to add security measures. And then the fencing from here was moved over to Jefferson. Washington Franklin roof project is underway right now, and we had some storm damage, so we had some replacements over at the high school. Grounds improvement upkeep was done. Our grounds crew worked throughout the summer to keep that up. We did do some smaller HVAC projects at Daisy Baker, the high school in Truman, and then we are planning for that larger project at Lincoln that would be part of the bond issue that we really need to get a move on right now. So we allocated the funds for it when we adopted the budget. As I mentioned, transportation have had some challenges, but we are currently working through that. And then you just approved the proposal to increase trip pay, so we hope to be able to recruit some more trip drivers because we are definitely struggling in that area. So we will start working on the marketing with our new pay structure here. In the world of finance, of course, you got a lot of that at the intro at the 4:30 meeting, so I won't go over the first bullet point, but state funding, I'm keeping you up to date on that. The approved budget was $71.45, but we are being paid right at $6,900. That's what we budgeted with, so that's a good thing. And we budgeted conservatively, and it hasn't moved up. It actually moved down just a notch from the first payment. And so we wouldn't probably see any increase in that until the legislature starts meeting after the start of the year, and if they appropriate more funds to go towards that. I believe DESI is probably kind of maxing out what they can pay. And then the audit took place the first week of school, so not only did we start school, but we went through the audit, and so the company our auditors will continue looking through our documents, but overall it was positive so far, so good work for Crystal in that area. And then updating you on just looking at investments and thinking ahead to when we pass the bond issue and how we would create a draw schedule. We met with representatives from MOCAP and MOSIP, which are governmental investment groups that work with cities and schools and stuff to help invest their funds and get the maximum rate of return. So several schools working with MOCAT that we know, and so that's just something we are looking in, and we may have a resolution just to get information from them, but not to necessarily move in that direction for sure until we have the bond across the finish line. And then online learning, I know Jerry had asked about that in the past, but he's not here tonight, but we started the year with 107 students enrolled, most of those in the high school. We have 4 teachers supporting them, and Mr. Northern has worked through that, getting those kids ready to go. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Kraus, who hosted a great community partnership where we met all the district administrators, came together, and we had local first responders. We were over at Daisy Baker, and we worked through a scenario situation to just how would we respond together and work together throughout that process, or something similar to that to come about for our schools. And that was a great growth day for us. So much going on, and I just appreciate the work of these people over here to make that all happen, to get us off to a smooth start. All the work that goes on out in the buildings, and the smiles they put on their faces to welcome the teachers back, and all the work that the teachers did, and bus drivers, cooks, custodians, the front office, everybody, to make sure that our kids get off to a great start for the school year. So, thank you.
Okay, having concluded our business, we're going to adjourn to closed session.
Make a motion to adjourn closed session, discuss personnel pursuant to statute 610.021, paragraphs 1, 3, 13, and 14.
Yes. Thank you. Roll call.
Kane.
Yes.
Howard. Yes. Lawson.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
Pond. Yes.
Thank you for coming. Enjoy this beautiful evening.